11:30 p.m. I was home alone and ordered a food delivery. When the GPS showed the delivery guy was 0 meters away from me. He suddenly called me, but after I picked up, the other end of the line didn't say a word. An eerie silence. Out of impatience, I hung up. Right at that moment, the delivery guy sent me a private message. I am sorry. Customer, I am deaf mute. I called you just to notify you immediately to come out and get your food. Because I couldn't explain the situation over the phone. I am truly sorry. You must have been waiting anxiously. I have left the food at the door. Please pick it up as soon as possible. Just as I was preparing to open the door, several lines of bullet comments suddenly floated across my eyes. Missed it. Don't open the door. The person outside the door is absolutely not the delivery guy. He is a murderer. He called you just to confirm through your voice on the phone whether you are a woman living alone or not. Truly speechless. Every time, the main character in horror stories is always this brainless. This delivery guy clearly has a problem, yet she still intends to go out and open the door. Because I was startled by those lines of comments that suddenly appeared. My hand, which was about to open the door, trembled violently and immediately yanked back sharply. What is this? What murderer? What horror story? Is the main character talking about me? Even though I have never believed in these ghost and supernatural things before. The letters in front of me were realistically floating right before my face. My heart thumped heavily, sinking down. Without time to think much, I only caught the crucial information in the comments, right at this moment. Outside my house door, someone was standing there, a murderer who could take my life at any time. Alertly, I pressed myself close to the door, held my breath, and looked outside through the peephole. But the hallway outside was completely empty. Without a single soul, I stared intently at the hallway through the peephole, and very quickly discovered an abnormality. The hallway of our apartment building is installed with automatic motion sensor lights. As long as there is someone in the hallway, the light will always stay on. And from my house's position, it happened to be able to see the entire hallway clearly. Right now, the hallway clearly had no one, but the sensor light remained brightly lit without turning off. This proved that someone was hiding in the hallway, and this person happened to be in the blind spot of my vision. Suddenly thinking of something, I immediately turned off the lights inside the house, then lowered my head to look down at the crack under the bottom of the main door. After the lights inside the house were turned off, the light that originally came from outside the door would immediately seep through the door crack and shine into the house. But currently, the middle section of the door crack was completely blocked by a dark shadow, with only a little faint light seeping through the two edges. There really was someone hiding outside. He was currently bending down and squatting right in front of my house door. Only this position was the dead angle in the peephole's field of vision. Right at this moment, my phone suddenly lit up. It was the delivery guy sending another message. Why haven't you picked up the food yet? Is there any problem? I can help you. Looking at the dark shadow squirming through the door crack, I seemed to hear the breathing sound of the man outside. At this moment, I believed even more firmly in the truthfulness of those bullet comments just now. Believing firmly that in front of my door, there really was a guy hiding with malicious intent. Decisively, I backed away from the door, quickly returned inside the room, and tightly locked all the big doors and windows. Then I pulled out my phone, preparing to call the police. At the same time, another large batch of comments floated across my eyes. The female lead is starting to grow a brain. To think she didn't go out to open the door, and even knew to turn off the lights in the room to look at the shadow of the murderer outside the door. So smart. But the female lead is the first victim to be murdered. You know, if she doesn't open the door at this time, how can the subsequent plot continue? That's right, after the female lead is harmed and dies, the male lead will be deeply heartbroken, and only then will there be the horror investigation plot of the male lead afterward. Seeing these floating words, my heart trembled violently for a while, suddenly having a bad premonition. Sure enough, before I could even press the call button for the police number on the screen, a cold laugh echoed from the direction of the main door. It was the voice of an unfamiliar man. Then, a few very faint friction sounds came through, as if someone was gently shifting their body. I tensely clenched my fists, and before I could react in any way, then the next second, a large logging chainsaw pierced through the room door in the blink of an eye. That logging chainsaw easily penetrated the room door, its blade spinning frantically, emitting sounds that made one's skin crawl. The silhouette of the man gradually became clear. He wore a mask and a black hat, no matter what. I couldn't see his face clearly, but I could feel him staring intently at me. Terrified, I backed away, but found that I had retreated to the very end and could back up no further. Without saying a word, he just looked straight at me. Then with a powerful thrust, the room door was completely sawed apart. Desperately, I raised both hands, trying to put up a final resistance. Is there some grudge between you and me? At least let me die with a clear understanding. But the man still remained silent. He slowly lifted the chainsaw, the blade glinting with cold light under the lamp. With a fierce swing from him, I only felt a sharp, piercing pain surge over me, and the world before my eyes was instantly dyed red with fresh blood. My body was sawed in half. the pain submerging me like a tidal wave. Before completely losing consciousness, I again saw strings of comments flying out. I told you so. Even if this female lead doesn't open the door, she still has to die. The plot is already preset. She is the very first victim who must die. There's no escaping it. Alas, so pitiful. She was already very smart, but she still couldn't avoid death. Alright, upstairs stopped crying on her behalf. The frustrating part is over. Next, we can watch the male lead solve the case and get revenge in this satisfying story. When I opened my eyes again, the surrounding stench of blood and the intense sensation of pain on my body had disappeared. I found myself standing completely intact and unscathed in front of my house door. Just as my hand was about to reach toward the doorknob to open the door, lines of comments popped out before my eyes again. Missed it. Don't open the door. The person outside the door is absolutely not the delivery guy. He is a murderer. He called you just to confirm through your voice on the phone whether you are a woman living alone or not. Truly speechless. Every time. The main character in horror stories is always this brainless. This delivery guy clearly has a problem, yet she still intends to go out and open the door. I quickly yanked back my hand that was intending to open the door, clutching my chest and panting heavily. Have I been reborn? In the previous life, the guy who cut me into two halves was currently squatting in front of my house door at this very moment, lurking like a tiger watching its prey. There was no more time. He had a chainsaw in his hand. As long as he broke through the door and entered, I would absolutely have neither the time nor the opportunity to escape. I rushed into the house at top speed. After letting my eyes sweep over several doors, I decisively dashed into the bathroom. The bathroom was the room closest to the hallway window. Only by climbing out of the bathroom window would I have a hope of escaping. After running inside, on one hand, I tightly bolted and reinforced the bathroom door, and on the other hand, I quickly reorganized my train of thought. From those strange lines of comments that suddenly appeared, I very quickly deduced that this world I am living in is the world inside a thrilling horror novel. And this horror novel is a story revolving around that culprit outside the door and a young man with a high IQ. The comments said this story takes my death as the opening, because I am a very important person to the male lead. After I die, the male lead will be deeply heartbroken, which is why he gets sucked into this vortex of struggle, matching wits and courage against the culprit. But I don't even have a boyfriend. So who on earth is this person called the male lead? I opened the bathroom window and looked down at the height of the 10th floor below. My head experienced a bout of dizziness. At this moment, my phone also sent the delivery guy's message. Why haven't you picked up the food yet? Is there any problem? I can help you. Exactly the same as the previous life. I knew that the murderer was about to break in. No longer hesitating, I lifted my leg to climb out of the window. The lines of comments in front of my eyes began to roll up again. Wow, this female lead is really awesome. Even though her screen time isn't much, she is very fierce and combative, directly climbing out the window. It's just a pity. What use is that? This female lead definitely must die in the first episode. Otherwise the subsequent plot cannot continue. But this female lead is indeed quite good. Both beautiful and possessing both courage and strategy. Truly worthy of being the girl the male lead likes. It's just a pity that a beautiful woman has an ill-fated life. That's right. Even if she escapes from the room, she still won't. No use. The entrance doors downstairs have all been locked tight by the murderer. What does this mean? What do they mean by I definitely must die in the first episode? Could it be that no matter what, I cannot escape today? And who on earth is this male lead? With so many people talking about the male lead in the comments, why hasn't anyone mentioned his name at all? Using both my hands and feet, I clung to the fire pipe and climbed over to the side. Right at the moment I managed to climb onto the hallway window. Bang! A loud noise of a chainsaw sawing through a main door came from the apartment next door. The murderer had entered my house. I didn't dare to stop for a single second, quickly flipping my body inside the hallway window. After letting my eyes sweep over the elevator and the emergency exit, I dashed into the elevator at top speed, pressed floor 1, then immediately ran out of the elevator, choosing to rush straight down the stairwell. Although the elevator was fast, the main doors on the first floor were already locked tight, so being fast was of no use. Meanwhile, the stairwell was dark and cluttered, making it a very good place to hide and conceal oneself. As for pressing and selecting all the floors of the elevator, it happened to be able to wait until the elevator went down, creating an illusion for the murderer that I was inside the elevator. As I ran, I calculated a counter strategy. If this world revolves around the match of wits and courage between the murderer and the high IQ male lead, and the ultimate winner is the male lead, then it proves that the male lead's capability and wisdom are higher than the murderer's. Therefore, he is destined to be able to win against the murderer. But the murderer, as the number one villain of this world, has a capability setting that is second only to the male lead. As for me, a fake female lead used as a foil for the plot. No matter how much I do, I basically cannot resist the power of the plot and the character settings to escape from his hands. That was why in the previous life, even though I didn't open the door anymore, I still met with a similar ending. Then it would be the same in this life, no matter where I hide. That murderer will definitely still find me. The only thing I can do is to prolong the time, find the male lead, and make the male lead enter the game earlier, using the male lead's character power to engage in a tug-of-war with him. Only then will I have a glint of hope for survival. But who on earth is this person called the male lead? I went down to the next floor. Just as I was preparing to continue running downward, I heard the sound of the elevator door on the upper floor closing. The murderer fell for the trap. He thought I took the elevator down to the first floor, so he had taken another elevator down to chase after me. But I knew this trick would not last long. He would quickly discover that he was being led by the nose. While running downward, I looked for a hiding spot, and finally hid inside the pile of miscellaneous items in the stairwell of the 7th floor. This pile of miscellaneous items was piled high with garbage left behind by the cleaning lady, with sticky, foul-smelling liquid everywhere. But precisely because of this, it became the best hiding place right now. Not long after, a sequence of hurried yet heavy footsteps echoed in the hallway. The murderer had caught up. The footsteps got closer and closer, and I held my breath, not daring to breathe heavily. Oh my God, watching this is so suspenseful. The female lead is about to be discovered. So pitiful. It would be so good if the male lead were here right now. He could definitely protect the female lead. I don't dare to watch. It's too brutal. I'd rather wait until the male lead appears in the later stage. When the satisfying part of the story begins, then I'll come back to watch. The male lead is still sleeping in at home right now, although he lives in the same building as the female lead. The female lead and he are currently completely unacquainted. How could she go to cry out to him for help? Ah, if only the female lead sent the male lead a messenger message. It would be so good. This love-crazy male lead has actually set a special text tone for her. You know, he can definitely come to save her. I caught the crucial information in the comments. The male lead lives in the same building as me, and also has me added on Messenger. At the same time, the footsteps stopped right in front of me, hiding in the pile of miscellaneous items. I looked at the silhouette of the figure outside through the gap, my heart trembling violently. Fortunately, he only stopped for a brief moment and very quickly continued to run down the stairs. Oh dear, this female lead is really smart too, hiding in the middle of such a pile of filthy and disgusting things. The murderer certainly couldn't have expected that a fragrant and clean girl would hide in there. Ahoo, I'm increasingly reluctant to let the female lead die. I had no time to care about what the comments were saying anymore. Opening my phone at top speed to check the messenger list for candidates who matched the characteristics of the male lead. The number of people on my messenger list was very small. After screening for just a moment, I had already found the only 2 people who matched the characteristics of the male lead. One was my classmate, Austin. The other was the grandson of Old Man Arthur, the janitor in the apartment building, Silas. I dazed out for a moment. I was not close to either of these 2 people. But I quickly composed a distress message and sent it in batches to these 2 people. According to what the comments said, the male lead had set a special text tone for me, so the person who replied to the message the fastest would be the male lead. Very quickly, the phone vibrated once. It was Austin who sent a reply. Just hide right where you are. Absolutely do not move around randomly right now. I'm coming to find you right away. But the next second, Silas also sent a message. Leave your current position immediately. That guy is a high IQ player. Your spot is no longer safe. Run fast. They replied to my message almost at the exact same time. But the messages from the 2 of them pointed me in 2 completely opposite directions. In the end, who on earth is the male lead? I lifted my head wanting to see hints from the comments. But at this moment, the space in front of my eyes was completely blank. There was nothing at all. Right while I was still hesitating and undecided, another sequence of hurried footsteps echoed in the hallway. Is it Austin coming to find me? No, that's not right. Austin lives on the rooftop floor of this building. But these footsteps are clearly echoing up from downstairs. It's that murderer. He's back again. The footsteps got closer and closer, and my heart pounded wildly and endlessly inside my chest. Both Austin and Silas. I am not close to either of these 2 people, so I basically have no way to judge who on earth that high IQ male lead is. Right at this moment, the comments rolled up again. Wow, the female lead called the male lead for help. Why did she call both people at the same time? Who is that other guy? The female lead is saved. Our main male lead is about to arrive. Are we about to see the handsome face of the male lead ahead of time? A talented man and a beautiful woman. I ship this couple. Paddle, paddle, paddle. I caught the crucial information again. Handsome. I carefully recalled for a bit. Austin's face indeed looked very delicate. I remember during freshman year when we first entered the school, he was even voted as the school hot boy. As for Silas, after he grew up, I had never met him, but his grandfather, the old janitor Arthur, had that kind of appearance. So presumably Silas wouldn't be much better off. Then the male lead definitely must be Austin. I chose to trust Austin, decisively hiding right where I was, when the footsteps in the hallway quickly stopped in front of me. My entire heart tightened up. Chloe, are you inside? It was Austin. I pushed aside the pile of foul-smelling miscellaneous items blocking my body. Happening to face the handsome face in front of me, Austin was panting heavily, still carrying a large bag of things in his hand, looking like he had just returned from outside. No wonder Austin clearly lives on the rooftop floor, yet the footsteps just now echoed up from downstairs. "I'm sorry, Chloe, I just came back from having a midnight snack outside. I'm not late, am I?" Before Austin's words were finished, I suddenly felt that something was a bit off. Very quickly, I figured out where the wrong point lay. In the comments earlier, it was once said that, although the male lead lives in the same building as me. When the case occurred, the male lead was sleeping at home, but Austin returned from the outside. A stream of cold air shot straight up from the soles of my feet to my scalp. Clop, clop, clop. A hurried, rhythmic yet alternating fast and slow sequence of footsteps came from behind Austin. Trembling, I looked up. That guy had already stopped right behind Austin's back. He was still wearing the same black mask and black hat, the chainsaw in his hand glinting with cold light under the dim lamp. Without a single bit of hesitation, he abruptly raised the weapon and slashed fiercely toward Austin. Austin didn't even have time to react before he collapsed in a pool of blood. The murderer slowly turned his head to look at me. The next second, I only felt a violent pain surge over me, and the world before my eyes gradually blurred. Those lines of comments appeared again. The female lead isn't the first victim again. Who is this handsome guy? He looks quite dashing. How come he received his box lunch right after appearing for a brief moment? What a pity. What nonsense is the upstairs talking about? That's because the male lead hasn't appeared yet. Okay, the male lead is the handsomest person in this story. But didn't the female lead already call the male lead for help? How come she still died like that? When I woke up again, I returned to the front of my house. My hand was still about to go and open the door. Missed it. Don't open the door. The person outside the door is absolutely not the delivery guy. He is a murderer. He called you just to confirm through your voice on the phone whether you are a woman living alone or not. This time, I calmly skimmed through those lines of comments that were exactly the same as the previous life. On one hand, I followed the old route, climbing out of the bathroom window into the hallway, and on the other hand, I sent a distress message to Silas. Just like the previous life, he replied to the message very quickly. "Chloe, listen to me, while he still hasn't discovered you. Right now you immediately run into the elevator. Press and select all the buttons of the floors below the 10th floor. Then get out on the 5th floor. The resident of apartment 502 on the 5th floor is a retired armed policeman. Go knock on the door and explain the reason. He won't refuse to take you in." Seeing his message, I dazed out for a moment. Finally, I understood why this person was the male lead of this world. Meanwhile, the comments at this time all began to float with pink bubbles. Holy crap, am I seeing this right? The female lead directly called the male lead for help. This male lead must be losing his mind with joy, right? This is the first time the goddess has actively spoken to him. Is a horror detective story about to turn into a romance novel? Speechless, not watching anymore. I timed it perfectly to climb out into the hallway. On the other side, the murderer also happened to use the chainsaw to saw through my house door. Using my fastest speed, I dashed into the elevator, did as the male lead said, and pressed all the buttons of the floors below the 10th floor. It had to be admitted that this male lead was indeed very smart. A building has 2 elevators. After I enter the elevator, the murderer, discovering there is no one in the house, will definitely chase outside, and he is also destined to judge my position through the display screen outside the elevator. I live on the 10th floor. After entering the elevator, I press and select all the floors below the 10th floor, and finally walk out from the 5th floor, even if the murderer is up there observing. Then he could only see the elevator stopping one by one between floors 1 to 9. Unable to discern which floor I had actually gotten off on, and the 5th floor happened to be exactly equidistant from the 10th floor and the 1st floor. Regardless of whether the murderer started checking from the 9th floor or started checking from the 1st floor, it would still require a certain amount of time to check until the 5th floor. What made people even more astonished was that the male lead coming up with this method only took 2 seconds of time to reply to my message. I again tried hard to recall the appearance of this male lead, discovering that the first image to pop up in my head was still his childhood appearance when he pulled my pigtails in the apartment building. His entire face was filthy and smudged, and he even had a runny green nose. No matter what, it was impossible to connect him with the image of a handsome, high IQ young man described in the comments. I quickly stepped out of the elevator and went to the 5th floor, finding apartment 502, perhaps because my nerves were overly tense. When knocking on the door, I alertly observed the surroundings, not daring to knock too loudly, but the door was still quickly opened. A retired armed policeman with a resolute face appeared in front of me. On one hand, I lamented that a retired armed policeman still possessed such an extremely high alertness toward sound. And on the other hand, I hurriedly explained the situation to him. The old policeman immediately let me into the house and alertly locked the door tight. Silas told me he had called the police and was now on his way to apartment 502. Actually, the previous 2 times I had thought about calling the police, but the time was overly pressing, giving me absolutely no opportunity. By this point, I had realized that this world is a novel world, and furthermore, a novel world revolving around the male lead as the center. Calling the police was not even as useful as riding on the male lead's aura. But for this matter to be reported to the police by the male lead himself was a different story. Right at the moment I was preparing to heave a sigh of relief, I suddenly heard the main door being knocked twice gently. "Hello. Food delivery guy here." My heart was terrified and jolted, just as I was about to open my mouth to stop it. I suddenly discovered that the old policeman, without me knowing when, was already standing at the door with his hand placed on the doorknob, muttering from his mouth as he opened the door, how come I don't remember ordering food?" Anxiously, I blurted out, "Don't open the door." But it was still too late. Right at the moment the door was opened, the murderer, raising his chainsaw, slammed inside, although the policeman quickly made a reaction, rushing in to wrestle with the murderer. After all, because his age was advanced, he gradually fell into a disadvantage. Terrified, I searched everywhere for something that could be used for self-defense, but could find nothing. Very quickly, the policeman collapsed in a pool of blood. The murderer turned his head to look toward me, and I desperately closed both eyes. The next second, violent pain surged over me, and my consciousness gradually blurred. The comments again began to come like snowflakes, flooding in massive clusters one after another. "Boo hoo hoo, the female lead is dead." When the male lead rushed to the scene, he happened to see the female lead's corpse. "This is too heartbreaking." The entire first half was overly frustrating. Finally it's about to reach the part where the male lead counter kills. The female lead is so pitiful. She put in such an effort wanting to live on, yet the ending is still death. After being reborn once again, I still contacted Silas right from the beginning, but this time, I explicitly proposed to him whether I could directly hide in his house, and then call the police to wait for reinforcement. From the several previous failures, I had basically cleared up the line of thought. In this world, except for the male lead, as long as someone is involved in this matter, they are guaranteed to die. Furthermore, everyone in this world, in order to let the plot develop normally, will be forced to have their IQ lowered. I chose to directly bind my body with the male lead, since I wanted to ride on the male lead's aura. Then I would ride on it until the very end. Silas initially still proposed to let me get off the elevator on the 5th floor, and he would quickly come to the 5th floor to find me. Because Silas lived on the 11th floor, which was too close to the 10th floor, it would definitely be much more dangerous than going down to the 5th floor. I told him very decisively, no matter whether it's going to the 5th floor or the 1st floor in the end. In short, right now during the entire process, I must be bound together in one place with you. Wherever you go, I go. Perhaps because I had gone through several rounds of life and death. The words spoken were also considerably more rushed. As soon as these words of mine were blurted out, the other end of the line was silent for a long time before replying with a single sentence, "All right." But the comments at this moment exploded. Holy crap, isn't the female lead not close to the male lead at this time? Why does she speak so frankly and bluntly? Ha 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 ha. The male lead behind the screen must have his face turning completely red. Right? There's a bit of sweetness. So easy to ship. Why do I keep getting the feeling that the female lead seems to have a god's eye view? Just like knowing in advance that the male lead can save her. Which is why she suddenly became like this. Precisely because of this, when standing in front of the male lead's house door, inside my heart I still harbored a glint of expectation. I also wanted to see what a person who could become the male lead of the entire book actually looked like. But right at the moment the door opened, I was completely stunned right on the spot. I still confirmed once again, "You are Silas, right?" The man alertly took a look around the 4 directions, then quickly pulled me inside the room. "Come inside and talk." Until the door was closed behind my back, I still hadn't completely gathered my soul back to its position. This man in front of me, let alone a handsome guy, could not even have his appearance counted as normal. His skin was pitch black, his body was chubby and stout, and on a large, greasy face were 2 tiny eyes like green mung beans. When talking, a dense, foul odor flew out from his mouth. I was completely and utterly dumbfounded. At this time, the content appearing on the comments made me once again doubt the truthfulness of this world. Ah, the male lead has appeared. So handsome. Too handsome. I'm bursting with love. Truly worthy of being the handsomest and high IQ male lead of this story. Sisters, me saying he's a face genius is not an exaggeration at all. Right? Save me, who could have expected that such a super handsome guy would also be a high IQ genius who can turn the tide? So well matched with the female lead. A talented man and a beautiful woman. I truly increasingly. But when I was pulled by Silas to walk past the large mirror, in his living room, seeing clearly and unmistakably the person reflected in the mirror, I was still my original self. The appearance I saw every day when I woke up in front of the mirror at home. A slender figure, fair skin. As for Silas, he was also no different from the him I saw in real life. Looking at the pink, boy crazy bubbles constantly appearing in the comments, my worldview almost completely collapsed. The foul odor on the body of the man next to me was so dense that I had to try very hard to restrain my facial expression just to be able to stand beside him. But just at the thought of him being the male lead of this world, the man sat down in front of me. I've already called the police. For the nearest police station to get here takes about 20 minutes of travel time. During this period of time, I will protect your safety. Just now, you're coming up here delayed a bit of time, so wanting to escape outside now to find a safer place is no longer realistic. Currently, what we can do is hide really well here and wait a bit. I will cut off the entire power supply in the house, creating an illusion that there is no one at home. Under the floor of my house, there is a small space I use to do experiments. In a moment, just hide inside there, and no matter what sound you hear, do not come out. I nodded my head, feeling considerably more at ease inside my heart, although the male lead did not match his supposedly handsome character setting. I recalled having seemingly heard about this vaguely before. This only grandson of Old Man Arthur, the janitor, was attending a polytechnic university, but what I could know was only that much. I waited for a very long time, and outside there was almost not a single sound, but my heart still tightened up, not daring to relax even a bit. Anxiously, I paced back and forth in this small space. After pacing for a while, I suddenly discovered a small corner of the wall hiding itself in the darkness. On the corner of the wall, it was pasted full of photos. These photos were all of me at different times. Some photos, even I myself didn't know existed. The piece of paper next to it was written full of my personal information and hobbies. Chloe. Birthday June 18, 2000. Hobbies, dancing and idol chasing. In my heart, I vaguely felt something was wrong, but the comments suddenly, as if going crazy, flooded in massive clusters. Holy crap, this unrequited love of the male lead is too thrilling. So gloomy and dark, but I like it. Oh my god, hiding so many photos of the female lead privately like that, secretly recording the female lead's hobbies. Who dares to say this isn't true love? Too touching. I see the female lead is also about to fall in love with the male lead. Look at that appearance of hers. She is clearly being moved. My face was full of question marks. From where did you guys see that I was being moved? I turned around at top speed to leave that corner of the wall, gently stroking my chest, trying hard to suppress the discomfort in my heart. Time passed minute by minute, second by second, yet outside there was always no movement. The floor was open from the outside. The chubby, stout face of the male lead broke into a relieved smile. It's fine now. That guy has been taken away by the police. I jolted in surprise and terror. Is it over just like this? The male lead's aura has already reached this grand extent? Or was it to say that during the time I was underground, he was outside matching wits and courage with the murderer, and even won the match? I quickly climbed up from under the floor and ran to the balcony, happening to see that murderer being escorted into a police car by the police. The black hat, black mask, it was indeed this person. Without a doubt, but this matter was also too easy. The male lead stood beside me, smiling foolishly at me, the rims of his ears turning completely red all the way to his ears. I still expressed my gratitude to him very sincerely. After everything was completely handled, the sky had turned bright. I rubbed my empty stomach, preparing to go out and have a breakfast first. At 6 a.m., there was sunlight shining upon the very first east-leaning tree on the tree-lined street. On the street, there were a few scattered pedestrians. I was walking on the street when suddenly I felt my spine tingle a bit. The next second, a sequence of footsteps came from behind. Just as I turned my head, after seeing clearly the person coming, my heart leaped violently for a while. Black mask, black hat, hadn't he been arrested and taken away by the police? Why could he still? But that person did not give me any time to question. The axe, glinting with cold light, slashed fiercely down onto my head. I told you so. If the female lead doesn't die, the subsequent plot basically cannot proceed. The female lead still died after all. Even if she called the male lead for help that night, it was of no use. The light before my eyes disappeared inch by inch. When I opened my eyes again, I did not contact him, the person with the male lead's aura, anymore, looking from the memory of the previous life. Actually, finding him was not wrong. At least his male lead's aura had helped me live for one more night. But I knew that if I wanted to keep my life, I was forced to be by his side every single moment and everywhere. Just leaving by one step, and I would be reverse killed by the culprit. I didn't want it to be like that. I stood in front of my house door, looking at the dim dark shadow outside the door crack. The guy who had killed me 4 times was standing right outside the door. I knitted my brows and thought for a few seconds. Something suddenly flashed in my head, and I hurriedly made a phone call to my mother. I didn't call for help, asking only a single question: what year, what month, and what day was I born? After receiving the answer, I then hung up the phone, looking once again toward the dark shadow outside the door. Inside my heart, I finally made a decision. Let's take a gamble. This time I will no longer hide or run. I will, all by myself, directly confront him face to face and counterattack him. I quickly rushed to my room, opening the closet to rummage around. Fortunately, as a medical student, inside my wardrobe, various kinds of miscellaneous, random, sharp medications were frequently stocked up. Although there were no highly aggressive and dangerous chemicals like sulfuric acid, I still successfully found a bottle of potassium permanganate, permanganate of potash, and a bottle of Fleet Enema rectal pump solution. I opened the caps of the 2 bottles of medication, hiding them behind my back. Then I took a pair of scissors, stuffed them into my coat pocket, and walked firmly and decisively toward the door. The comments also suddenly exploded at this moment. What does the female lead intend to do? Why do I keep getting the feeling that she knows the murderer is outside the door? This gaze is too fierce and determined. Truly thrilling. I stood in front of the door. This time, I didn't wait for the person outside to use a chainsaw to break through the door and barge in anymore, but instead personally opened the door myself. I took a long stride forward, forcefully drenching the man outside with the mixed liquid of potassium permanganate and the Fleet Enema rectal pump solution in my hands. The bottle burst with sparks, and then the flames spread in an instant, his entire body catching fire. Ah! The man emitted a wretched, miserable cry, taking advantage of the fact that he had no time to deal with the sudden attack and care for himself. I raised the chainsaw in his hand, swinging it everywhere. It was just a pity that his eyes could no longer see anything. I only took a step back, then held the scissors, aiming precisely at his carotid artery, a matter contrary to medical expertise. I coldly looked at the man in front of me collapsing in a pool of blood. But the comments at this time all went crazy, as if losing their minds. Wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute. What did I just see? The female lead who was originally supposed to die in the first episode actually counter-killed? Are you kidding me? Just a brief moment like this. Holy crap, holy crap. This story should decisively change into a grand female lead story instead. It completely made my eyes look cool. But the female lead killed someone with her own hands. You know. Won't she go to prison for being like that? I let out a soft laugh. Go to prison? Of course not. I bent my body down, stripping away the hat and mask of the man. The countenance and appearance of the man were completely exposed to the outside. Chubby and stout, pitch black, greasy, regardless of whether he played the role of the evil, malicious murderer or the righteous, high IQ male lead Silas. His face to me would forever be this fat and ugly appearance. Yet the attitude of the comments toward him and the attitude when he appeared as the male lead in the previous life were a world apart. What is he showing off for? This murderer is way too ugly. Nausea has arrived right at the doorstep. Guys, let me go vomit for a bit first. Whose wild boar escaped from the pen like this? From the moment I called my mother and she said my birthday, I had determined that this world was completely unreal. My mother said I was born on June 18, 2000. This was indeed the birthday registered on my citizen identity card without error. But when I was small, due to a mistake by the local household registration office, they registered my birth date one day early. In reality, my birthday is on June 19. Over so many years, even though I myself would sometimes be fuzzy and hazy about it when having things to do, my mother was the only person who could never forget my real birthday. But inside this fabricated world, taking him as the center, all things and matters were created according to his memory. My mother naturally wasn't my real mother either, and regardless of whether it was the murderer or the male lead, they were both nothing more than characters fantasized by him himself. The prototype was all he himself. As for me, the previous few times I only thought about running away and calling for help, mistakenly believing this was truly a novel world, wanting to borrow the male lead's aura to escape from this so-called destiny of being destined to die. Along with the man on the ground drawing his final breath, the entire world began to collapse. A streak of white light flashed before my eyes, and I lost consciousness. When I opened my eyes again, it was finally no longer the familiar house door at night. The doctor even told me that you were increasingly weak, and there was a high probability you wouldn't wake up anymore. I knew right away that my daughter wouldn't leave me like that. My daughter is the smartest, bravest person. Why was I in a hospital? Wasn't it that grandson of old man Arthur in the apartment building, named Silas or something? It's fine if he wanted to seek death himself, but he even administered the same kind of drug to you, wanting you to die along with him. The police even searched and found a small room under his floor. Inside, it was entirely full of your photos and a few novels taking you and him as prototypes. Looking at it makes me turn inside out with anger. If that wretched beast hadn't died in the hospital last night, then even if I had to go to prison, I would still have beaten him within an inch of his life. So the truth was precisely like this. Thinking of that face of Silas, a bout of nausea rose inside my heart. Mum, thank you. Without you, I wouldn't have been able to wake up. After recuperating for a period of time in the hospital, My body also gradually recovered. During this period of time, the things Silas did were spread wildly on social media. Even though he himself was dead, he still couldn't avoid a bout of cyberbullying. Silas's grandfather, Old Man Arthur, the janitor in our apartment building, came to visit me. Chloe, Silas did that kind of thing also because he liked you too much. Now he is no longer around. He shouldn't and doesn't deserve to endure this kind of cyberbullying. Is your family's selfishness and shamelessness all genetically inherited from your ancestors? According to my mother, Old Man Arthur fell ill and couldn't get out of bed after losing his only grandson. And later on, he frequently had to go to the hospital too. Oh, then what does that have to do with me? After being discharged from the hospital, I continued to complete my studies. From then on, I became more resilient, braver, and possessed more capability to face difficulties independently by myself. My life was smooth and happy.